Real quick, we have a small follow-up to a story that was big about a week and a half ago. Nvidia's DLSS 5, of course, made the rounds last week. Lots of discourse around it. Next generation graphics, baby, is what we're told, even though it kind of makes everybody look like they have an AI slop filter put over top of them. Some of the AI bros got mad triggered at those comparisons, saying, no, it's not actually doing that. It's not just a filter. It looks like one, which is all that really matters. If it looks like an AI slop filter, I'm going to say it looks like an AI slop filter, okay? Like, it just does. It just does, okay? I don't care how you're getting there. It just does. Now, there was further updates and reveals where it sounds like it actually is much more that than we initially thought, that it's using just like 3D motion vectors, and then it goes through a filtration layer. And so it sounds like it's much more of a filter than they initially let on. Initially, they were trying to say that, no, it's actually just recalculating light. It sounds like it's not actually that simple. But there's been some other updates as we've gone through this, including a pivot from the CEO that shows he's changing his approach with how he talks about all of this. The other tidbit, just to mention at the outset, is that apparently most of the devs at Ubisoft and Capcom did not know about DLSS 5 until they saw it on Twitter, just like you and me. So this was not something that like the team was super excited about. When like Todd Howard said that everyone, when we put this into Starfield, it brought the game to life and really excited us. Apparently it was basically just Todd and maybe one or two engineers at the top. It was not something that the whole company was aware of. They probably would say that that was because of NDAs. It was not public, so they didn't want to tell the whole team, which fair, but also I think it was kind of convenient because I think most of the artists that worked on the games probably would not be too thrilled with it. All of this came to a head when, of course, Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, was asked a question about DLSS 5, and this was his response. And this is the thing we're going to mention today, because this is what he's basically walking back.
Since DLSS 5 was revealed yesterday, there's been a pretty vocal response from some of the gaming community that the technology appears to make it worse.
Basically, if you are having trouble hearing, he's asking a question. Since DLSS 5 was revealed, there's been a lot of discourse in the game community that makes the games look worse, homogeneous, or only show Nvidia's view of how games should look. How do you feel about that? Well, first of all, they're completely wrong. It's not a great tactic to just, like, when your customer tells you, I don't like this, and they go, you're wrong, you do. It's like, it's probably not the best approach.
The reason for that is because,
professional streamer. The reason for that, as I explained very carefully, DLSS 5 fuses, I'm just going to read it because it's really quiet, fuses controllability of this and geometry and textures and everything about the game with generative AI. This is one of those moments where like you can just tell that the people inside the AI bubble thing are really out of touch with, I think, the average consumer. Because when you say generative AI, especially amongst gamers, the knee-jerk reaction is slop. Like, okay, here we go, gonna be garbage. So it immediately goes there. Homogeneous, it just means all of the same. So same group, okay? Same reason why like hetero's different, homo's the same, I'm tracking. Latin, yay. But when he's saying stuff like, even mentioning generative AI, it's like, bro, when you're talking to gamers, I would not bring that up because that gets gamers pissy. I wouldn't do that. You could still fine tune the generative AI so that you can make your artistic style. And so all of that is up to you. We created the technology, we don't create the art. The problem ultimately with all of this is that the model that they're using for all of these demos is the same. It's called a unified model, which means the model is trained on one bucket of, or a bunch of buckets, but it's one collective massive bucket of training data that teaches it how to do this. It's not separate for art style. It's not separate for studio. It's not separate for camera perspectives or for art direction. It is the same for everything, meaning the same light filtering, the same face effects and everything is going to be done whether you're playing FC or Starfield or Doki V or Crimson Desert, whatever, if it's enabled in that game, it's going to do the same filtration thing over the face. Maybe that's not technically what it's doing. It's not technically an AI face filter, but it looks like that. Okay. That's why a lot of people are worried about it looking homogeneous, because it's going to be the same training data. It's the same process being applied to everything. So all of the games will start to just kind of look the same, right? Now, what's changed? What's happened? Well, Nvidia's CEO now says he gets where the DLSS 5 outrage is coming from. Okay, sure. I don't love AI slop myself. Bet you don't. This also, if you missed it, yesterday they confirmed that they're shutting down Sora. And if you don't know Sora was the OpenAI tool that made like all of the AI video stuff. They're shutting it down. Apparently, they claim it's just because they need more compute for the other stuff they're doing. I think it also was kind of a PR nightmare, and there were threats of like copyright lawsuits and stuff. So I think it was a multifaceted thing. It was not as simple as just, we need more computers. But yeah, they're shutting it down, and at the same time, they will wind down its $1 billion contract with Disney as well, which is wild. It's absolutely wild. So we might be starting to see the first couple of dominoes falling with this stuff. But now you see the shift in tone also. I don't love AI slop either. This is the point that these companies like kind of need to understand, is that when people say AI slop, it means a lot of different things. But I think more than anything, it effectively points to the effect of like these AI videos that all share the same artifacts. They all share the same vibes. They're uncanny. They are uncomfortable. It's cheap, low effort slop. You know, that's why it's called slop, is that it's cheap, it's easy, and there's a lot of it. And especially as our social media feeds have become flooded with AI slop, it's gotten really, really bad. I don't know if you guys have tried to, like, one of my guilty pleasures is watching like archaeology or like documentary videos on YouTube. It's one of my things. Like, I was doing lawn work over the weekend. I had to go and seed, and I had to replace all of the wood chips and stuff like that. And so I turn on a documentary on a pharaoh that they uncovered in the 1940s. It's actually the only fully intact tomb of a pharaoh that they ever found, because King Tut's tomb was broken into. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But after that video ended, it auto played into the next one. And dude, that the archaeology and like historical documentary scene, for whatever reason, is overwhelmed with AI slop videos. It's overwhelmed with these scripts that are written by ChatGPT with an AI voice, and then it's put through some AI video editor, so it's all AI generated clips as well. It's total nonsense. I think, honestly, it's probably because a lot of the people that are watching those videos are like 65-year-old retirees, and they can't tell the difference. That's my guess, at least, why so many people are seeing that in that particular niche. But it's like an actual problem. And that is the type of thing that gets people pissed over like getting all of their quality content flooded with super, super low quality crap, you know? I can immediately tell that by their voice. It's their voice, and now there's even like little bits of like the phrasing, you know, because of course you can't hear an M dash in a sentence, but you can hear like it's not X, it's Y. AI bots do that all the time, where they're like, and so you might be thinking, is this tomb truly intact? No, it's not intact. It's pristine. It's like it's just trying too hard. It's just bad. So the fatigue with AI slop crap stuff is very, very omnipresent. You know, it's a big problem. If you want, by the way, if you want my recommendation for a fantastic channel for you to check out, History for Granite. Okay. This is like some deep cut stuff. He literally does live streams where he sits and cases the step pyramid, meaning he takes pictures and like charts out the individual blocks to figure out how they built it. It's like actually insane. Okay, it's really cool. But he does fantastic research. So if you've ever been curious about like the pyramids or anything like that, watch his channel. Some fantastic stuff, and it is not AI slop. It's very, very good. Highly recommend you go watch his stuff. He's like one of my favorite YouTube channels. Anyway, that's a separate thing. What did he say exactly about all of this though? Let's see. Okay. A week ago, Nvidia set fire to its gaming reputation with a DLSS 5 announcement that made the new generative AI tech look like an AI slop filter. Now, CEO Jensen Huang is still trying to do damage control and put out the blaze. Originally, he called angry gamers completely wrong, as we saw in that clip, for freaking out. In a new podcast interview, however, he struck a much more diplomatic tone. What he said was, quote, I think their perspective makes sense, and I can see where they're coming from because I don't love AI slop myself. He said this on the Lex Friedman podcast, by the way. You know, all of the AI generated content increasingly looks similar and they're all beautiful. And so I'm empathetic towards what they're thinking. Okay. But the man leading Nvidia's AI fuel transformation into a $4 trillion company also continued to push back on the idea that DLSS 5 is just a slop filter with no regard for the underlying visual framework and artistry that it's using training data to remix. He continued, that's just not what DLSS 5 is trying to do. I showed several examples of it, but DLSS 5 is a 3D conditioned, 3D guided. It's grounded, or it's ground truth structured data guided. And so the artist determined the geometry we are completely truthful to. The geometry maintains in every single frame. The thing I've always been peeved about with this though, is like the Starfield example is very clear cut. All of like materials and textures, everything, when you change how light works, it changes what the material appears to be, how soft or shiny or wet or hard or cold it appears. Like it changes fundamentally what it looks like. So even if the geometry is the same, if you're changing how the light is handled around the eyes, around the head, you can effectively change the look of the geometry. It's the same exact thing that happens with like, have you seen those videos of girls contouring? Dude, it's like crazy. It's like actual wizardry. I don't know. Do I really want to go down this rabbit hole pulling up a video of like contouring transformation? Do I want to get this on my stuff? I don't know. I don't know if this is a good example, but like starts here and like is able to contour and change the shape of her face by highlighting and shadowing different spots so it looks completely different, you know? Like it's kind of magic, okay? And so when you start messing around with light like that, that's why people said that it looked like Grace was wearing makeup when they didn't add makeup to her. It's just that the AI has been trained on data that makes like lips look fuller, that makes the eyes softly lit, things like that, which makes everybody look too sexy. I said it. DLSS makes people look too like models. They look like, you know, they're straight out of a Getty Images database because that's the data they were probably trained on, you know? And that's why like when it gets to like, you know, an actual goblin, it's like, I don't know how to handle this. It's like, I don't know what to do. I half expected them to add lipstick to the goblin. Just like, let me make him hot. Let me help. It's conditioned by the textures, the artistry of the artist, and so every single frame it enhances, but it doesn't change anything. Now the question about whether, about enhancing DLSS 5 also lets, because the system is open, you could train your own models to determine, and you could even in the future prompt it. You know, I want to be a toon shader. I want to look like this kinda. So you can give it an example and it would generate in the style of that, all consistent with the artistry, you know, the style, the intent of the artist. And so all of that is done for the artist so they can create something that is more beautiful but still in the style they want. Even this though, he's describing like putting in a prompt, I want it cell shaded, as if that is the full extent of art direction. Like it's just, that's not how this works. You're forgetting you need two 5090s for this. Yeah, so for anybody not familiar, the current understanding is that when they show this to Digital Foundry running in real time, they had it running on I think they just said it was a 50 series GPU, but I would guess it's a 5090. But they had it running on a 50 series GPU, and then they had a separate GPU that was just doing the DLSS 5 upscaling. Their goal is for it to run on the same card. But to me, I'm like, that's weird. That's weird. Like I'd be confused by that. Like if that's where they're at, I would imagine the performance hit is going to be pretty heavy. He says, I think the detractors got the impression that the games are going to come out the way the games are shipped the way they do, and then we're going to post-process it. That's not what DLSS is intended to do. DLSS is integrated with the artist, and so it's about giving the artist the tool of AI, the tool of generative AI. They could decide not to use it, you know? which again, this has been mentioned a few times. It's pretty funny for you to announce what you say is a groundbreaking, like world changing technology, and then to frame it as, but you don't have to use it. It's optional, fully optional. It's a little funny because if it really is groundbreaking and world changing, you'd think that they'd be like doubling down and like ready to go, like, oh yeah, no, we're all in on this, but apparently not. So I am just thoroughly intrigued by this. I don't know what their approach is going to be moving forward. If they're going to totally pivot and they're going to try to like whittle it down. I think the next time they frame it, it should not be focused on character faces, but I think the character faces are the most transformational ones, like, and it's the clearest example of the changes and what it's doing. So I just think that they did not expect the blowback. I think they thought people would see this and go, wow, it looks amazing. It looks so great. It looks amazing. I think that they were genuinely shocked because again, it's just this like same feeling of like being in this bubble where the average gamer, it seems, if you bring up generative AI, that's an immediate turnoff for them. You bring it up in these like tech circles and they get a hard on and are like ready to go, you know, but that's just not how it is. That's just, it's very out of touch, it seems to me. The background parts did look good. Well, and I think that that's where it could potentially find some appreciation. But I think it's also, this is why they framed it the way that they did. So like when they show the faces, the night and day difference with the faces and like the skin on the hands, that's where you see massive improvements. Because the data is trained to handle that. When it gets to the environments behind the character, especially in like Starfield, it's still very clearly a video game. Like it, and it's because it can only do so much, you know, it's still a video game. I think other environments, which are maybe looking a little bit more high fidelity, they can handle it better. It seems to be doing really well with like Unreal Engine, specifically with materials and stuff like that. It seems to work pretty well there. You can see in their tech demo, this one, it looks really, really good. So in the environment, I think it can make a big difference, but it's just when you start messing with faces, it triggers that uncanny valley vibe for people and it causes them to just kind of snap, you know? The oldest student at Hogwarts. Well, and this was my bigger problem is like, for one, with the Grace Ashcroft change, she doesn't look like the same person. And then two, with this guy, he goes from like being a 15-year-old high schooler and then he gets transformed into like a 40-year-old bank teller. It's just weird, man. Like it just doesn't look right. It doesn't work. But like I said, when we first saw this, what worries me is not that like Nvidia thought that this was a good idea. Nvidia is a $4 trillion company that stands to massively benefit by distributing this and like selling more GPUs and being the front runner in this new tech. Like they really stand to benefit from that. That doesn't surprise me. What does shock me is that so many of these studios and the executives at those studios signed off on it and said it looked awesome. That's what worries me. What worries me is that Todd looked at it and was like, this is the future of our games. You know, that's what worries me. Because Nvidia, of course, they have a real benefit to it. And I think for like BGS, for example, they also have a real incentive to push this forward and blow this up, because this could give them the ultimate cheat code to get around a lot of this drama, you know? So like they wouldn't need to do any sort of extra passes on skin, to do extra like subsurface scattering, to do work on facial animations and overhaul how their character's skin is rendered. They don't need to do any of that when you can just have this do it. You know? Why not? This makes it way easier. So I'm interested to see where they go. I'm guessing they're going to reframe how they market it, because as you can already see, I mean, he's pivoting and going from they're wrong to I get it. I agree, basically. I agree. You know, it's very interesting to see the pivot, but can't say I'm surprised because it was pretty overwhelming, the reaction. Pretty overwhelming, but we'll see where it lands. He took my thing. Red flag.